are a son of Ham. Ham produced black races, brothers and sisters. But now Israel didn't come from Ham. Israel came from Shem, but we're going to show you Israel looked just like the Hamites look. We're going to show you that, brothers and sisters, because there's other dark races besides Ham. Shem had some dark races too. That's a fact. But now, he said the sons of Ham, Cush, that's Ethiopia, Mizraim, that's Egypt, Phut, and Canaan. Now, everybody know Canaan were the black people that inherited the promised land, that had it before Israel got it. The Lord took it from Canaan, a Hamite, black people, and gave it to Israel, some more black people. But now we're going to read a little bit of history. We're going to read from this New Compact Bible Dictionary. And we're going to show you, now we didn't write it, obviously. You can look this up on your own. We're going to show you what it says about Ham, because it's going to distinguish Ham from this so-called black man, a Negro, African American, whatever you want to call it. See, it's the reason why we got all those names and don't know who we are. See, we've been cursed by God, and we'll get to that in part 3 next week. But go ahead, read this New Compact Bible Dictionary by Regency under Ham. Go ahead.
Ham. He became the progenitor of the dark races.
It said, now start at the top.
The youngest son of Noah, born probably about 96 years before the flood, and one of 8 persons to live through the flood.
Okay, now it says Ham is the youngest son of Noah. And it said he was born probably about 96 years before the flood. But we read about some of his sons, Cush, Mizraim, Phut, and Canaan. Mm-hmm. And other sons of theirs produced nationalities too, because you got more than 4 black nationalities from Ham. You got tons of them. Because sons were having sons, and they all was being made into nations at that time. But go ahead, finish that.
He became the progenitor of the dark races, not the Negroes.
Oh, wait a minute now. It said Ham became the what? The progenitor of the dark races. That's a fact, brothers and sisters. But the people who wrote this article, they had a lot of sense, because they excluded one dark race. They said, not the Negro, didn't it? Mm-hmm. Now, we didn't write this, brothers and sisters. The dictionary said Ham is the progenitor of the dark race, but not the Negro. But now it's going to name some who he is the father. That's all progenitor mean. That's who he produced. Who did Ham produce? Besides, he didn't produce the Negro, but who?
But the Egyptians, Ethiopians, Libyans, and Canaanites.
See, Phut stood for the original Libyans. Just like in Egypt, you don't have real Hamites there. You have Arabs running that now. That's another story. But still, the original Egyptians come from Ham. They call them Nubians now, as a matter of fact. They come from Ham. They black. They're dark-skinned race. So he is the progenitor of those, the Egyptians, the Ethiopians, the Libyans, and the Canaanites, like we read in Genesis 10. Now, let's go further. Go to Genesis 42. See, that's why you can read in Psalm. We don't have time to read all this on the TV program. But you can read in Psalm 105 how the Lord referred to Egypt as the land of Ham. The land of Ham. He talked about Moses and Aaron in Egypt, the land of Ham. Egypt mean black. The people were black, the original people. But now go to Genesis 42, because what we're going to do, we're going to show you that Israel is black because they look just like the Egyptians. They look like these people on our billboard that we got here on this side. They look like King Tut. They look like all these artifacts which actually came from Egyptian tombs. They look like them. That's how you know Israel is a black people. They look just like the Hamites, and the dictionary told you Israel didn't come from Ham. I mean, the Negroes. We're going to show you why we called Negro, Afro-American, and colored and all that. That's part of the curse, brothers and sisters. You ever think that why these people don't know who they are and where they came from? That's a curse from God. But he's going to fix that. Okay, Genesis 42, and pick it up at verse 1. Genesis 42 and verse 1. We're going to read about Joseph a little bit. Go ahead.
Now when Jacob saw that there was corn in Egypt, Jacob said unto his sons, why do ye look one upon another? And he said, behold, I have heard that there is corn in Egypt.
Go ahead.
Get ye down thither and buy for us from thence.
Go ahead.
That we may live and not die. And Joseph's 10 brethren went down to buy corn in Egypt.
Okay, now to make this quick, it was a famine in the land. Jacob sent his sons, 10 of them, into Egypt where Joseph had already been sold. Joseph was the ruler unbeknownst to them. He was running Egypt, a black nation. These pharaohs was nothing but black. See, later on, the Greeks took over Egypt and the Cleopatras and all that. They was in Egypt, but the original people that owned the land were Hamites. So he said, look, he sent his 10 sons down there to buy corn, and Joseph was there. They didn't even know Joseph. See, this is going to show you that Joseph had to look just like the black Egyptians, because his own brothers, though it had been about 12, 13 years, still, if the Egyptians were a light-skinned people, or if Joseph didn't look like the Egyptians, I say, and we know the Egyptians dark. If Joseph didn't look like them, then Joseph would have stood out like a sore thumb, brothers and sisters, especially to his own brothers. But this show you the Egyptians, we know were black. This show you Joseph had to be black. Skip down to verse 7 and go ahead.
And Joseph saw his brethren, and he knew them, but made himself strange unto them, and spake roughly unto them. And he said unto them, Whence come ye? And they said, From the land of Canaan to buy food. Okay, so now Joseph saw his brethren, and he knew them, but they didn't know him, and he spoke roughly to them. He even spoke through an interpreter, so they didn't recognize his dialect. So this show you Joseph had to be black, just like the black Egyptians, right? Mm-hmm. We know the Egyptians black. They come from Ham. And the history even told you, so don't just take my word when I'm reading to you out the Bible. The history told you. But go ahead, read verse 8. And Joseph knew his brethren, but they knew not him. Now this is their own brother. They don't know him in the midst of all these black Egyptians. So if Joseph was white, like the people say they Jews, if he was light-skinned, which again, brothers and sisters, to get saved, it don't matter what color you are. You just need to know the facts. It don't matter. But this is just a fact on how Israel look. Israel is a black people. So don't get bent out of shape. It's just a fact. Now, Joseph had to look just like the dark Egyptians for his own brothers not to know. Now we're going to look at another history. This is from the Reader's Digest illustrated version of the Bible, printed in 1961. And this is where a lot of these pictures are at in this Bible. It's an illustrated Bible. They got all kind of artifacts that literally came out of these different tombs. Now they say all of them mostly Egyptians. See, that's why you don't never really clearly see no Israelite artifacts, because somebody trying to hide the facts from you, brothers and sisters. Somebody didn't hid it from you. But now, these artifacts they put out in this Bible in 1961. We're going to read the preface from this Reader's Digest Illustrated Bible. Go ahead. Reader's Digest Illustrated Bible. Never before have the findings of archaeology been linked so extensively with the scriptures as the Reader's Digest Illustrated Edition of the Holy Bible. It contains more than 500 illustrations and captions that bring the background of history and the insights of archaeology to biblical narratives and themes. Go ahead. This edition became possible in 1961 when scholars completed a 6-year project of compiling and describing photographs of ancient artifacts. Now this comes from ancient artifacts. This is what we got on the billboard, but keep reading. Monuments, inscriptions, works of art, and archaeological sites to illustrate. That is, to set in a clear light innumerable subjects in the Bible. See, Reader's Digest, they knew what they was doing. They said, look, this Bible became possible when we put together all of these artifacts, monuments, inscriptions, works of art, and archaeological sites to illustrate. They say, look, we want to illustrate. Then they said, that is to set in clear light innumerable subjects in the Bible. They say, we want to show you really how it looked. All these people were dark skinned that were in the Bible. But go ahead. With this vast material before them, the editors of the Reader's Digest have worked for many years to develop and publish the Reader's Digest Illustrated Edition of the Holy Bible. So they didn't just paint some pictures. They had artifacts that they used that came literally out of graves. Go ahead, read the next paragraph. Until the preparation of this book, illustrations for the Bible were usually drawn from an artist's images, imagination. He said, until the preparation of this book, illustrations for the Bible were usually drawn from an artist's imagination. He just imagined, like Michelangelo, just imagination. It wasn't really what it would look like. But now they said, look, we showing you some facts. These are the facts. Go ahead. More often than not,